we will be discussing is the Mount Everest of sales life cycles. And for the benefit of the audience, just to kind of chunk that down a little bit, me and Seb are both avid mountaineers in our own time, or at least to like to think that we are. And what we're going to try and do is kind of draw the links between our hobby, which is mountaineering, and our roles in our careers, which is working in sales life cycles. But before we get into it, Seb, are you okay just to give the audience a bit of an introduction to yourself, if that's okay, mate?
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for having me, Nick. Really pleased to be here today. So for those who don't know me, which is probably the majority of your listeners, my name is Seb Cameron. I have been in sales now for, 14 years, I think it is. Started out my career as probably most salespeople do, bashing as a telemarketer or telesales person, bashing the phones, working for a company that specialized in helping individuals claim back money on missold endowment mortgages. So it was very long time ago. But where my sales career really took off was working for a company called Corporate Games. So I got to manage my love and passion for sport, but also sales as well. So I was selling corporate sports events. So think of it as a weekend of like a business Olympic Games.
Yeah.
So it's bringing many companies together across a weekend to compete against other organizations to become, the champion of the corporate world, essentially.
Yeah.
That's really where my love of sales started, and I'd say my career in sales really took off. I was lucky enough to move out to Dubai after 2 years of working for the UK office to go and head up the Abu Dhabi Corporate Games. Worked out there for 3 years, managed and scaled a sales organization before returning to the UK to a very different role. Moved into the SaaS world for an e-com company called Channel Advisor. Spent a couple of years there. Moved on to Trustpilot, again in the e-com space. Had a number of years there. Went from, I guess, scale up to IPO. So that was a really successful journey. And then more recently in HR compliance. So always, sort of the last 10 years or so in that tech environment. Before moving on to Think Cyber, where I've been now for actually 7 months today.
Okay. Well, congratulations on your 7 month anniversary, Seb. So thank you very much for that. So what is it that Think Cyber do?
Yeah, so Think Cyber, we're essentially trying to reimagine the way, or reposition the way people think about security awareness, and really trying to get people to start thinking of human beings as people. And we'll all make mistakes, and should we be punishing people for making those mistakes? Absolutely not. So we're trying to focus on how we can positively impact behaviors and change those behaviors. And there's a lot of psychology that has gone into this, and a lot of research that has said that to change behaviors, you really need to be learning something or doing something that's in the context. So in our world, Nick, it is you receive an email in your inbox. The majority of us are working on autopilot or up against tight deadlines, and we're in that like type 1 type thinking, right? We're like, well, we're not really thinking about what we're doing. And in this day and age, a lot of people are working from home. If they're like me, their kids will come home in the afternoon, they're under their feet, not really thinking about what you're doing. You've received an email from an unknown sender. The moment you go to do that risky thing, i.e. click on that link, we're nudging the user at that point in time that's relevant to what you're doing at that moment. And as I say, there's a lot of psychology that's gone into this that says to really change, to have a positive impact on behaviors, we've got to be influencing in the context. So essentially we're positioning like real-time interventions through nudge theory when you're about to do that risky thing, i.e. give away your company credentials. You might get a nudge there, or click on that link from an unknown sender. You may get nudged there. If you go to upload something to Dropbox, you might get nudged there, but it's all real time that when it's relevant to what it is that you're about to do.
Nice. Nice, really bringing sort of security awareness into the new age, and it's not just a case of like, oh, you've clicked on a phishing email, you're in big trouble now. It's kind of bringing it into the new age, isn't it? So, yeah, makes sense. Sounds like a really cool project that you guys are working on. So let's kick into it then, and let's try then and have a bit of fun with this, and try and draw the links between sort of our hobby, which is mountaineering, and our careers, which is the sales life cycle. So, from my perspective, before I start out on a hike, preparation is key. And that can be as simple as, okay, where am I parking the car? Like if I'm doing the Wainwrights in the lakes, where am I parking the car so that I'm not parking a million miles away from obviously where I'm finishing? What's the weather going to be like? What food am I taking for energy? And these are all things that you do pre the hike. Flip that into the sales world. Like how can we do that? What preparation do we sort of think of before starting a sales life cycle, Seb?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, and you're absolutely right. The preparation is key, right? So we're looking at we're potentially wanting to speak to an organization. Are they in our ICP? What's the size of the organization? Who do we typically speak to within an organization of that size? So in our world, it might be a cybersecurity practitioner, security awareness manager, maybe an infosec manager. And it's really, before we've even embarked on the sales journey, really starting to map the account out and looking at, okay, well, who are the players within the organization? What, have they experienced any recent attacks? What have what recent news events have there been? So we're really trying to prepare ourselves and gather as much information as possible before we even start our outreach. And to your point, Nick, that there's a lot of synergies there with when you're preparing on a hike or a climb, right? If you go in unprepared, then you can potentially expect to meet your downfall pretty early on, right? And it's the same with sales. If you don't prepare and you get brushed off because you haven't prepared, then it's your own fault. And it's the same in mountaineering. If you haven't prepared and you're taking the wrong equipment, for example, you've only got yourself to blame.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, just to kind of put my 2 pence on it, is like you say, if you're just going in, you're rocking up to a hike, and you're coming in your Converse, and it's going to be slippy, and
which we see a lot of, unfortunately, Nick.
A lot of, yeah. And very quickly, they're the people that are rolling their ankles, and when they roll their ankle and they're on the side of a mountain, it can go south very quickly.
Yeah.
Same as in sales. Like I see, obviously, in the recruitment side, that if you just go out and just do loads of cold outreach, we out your research, and you're just trying to hit everything, very quickly you're going to get exposed in the sense of like it's going to come across as sloppy because the research hasn't been done, and the community that you're selling in is often a small place, big Absolutely. But small, and then you can very quickly can get a bad reputation. So preparation is definitely key at the start. So like you say, so we have obviously, so we do the preparation on market knowledge, on facts and figures of the organisation, on our pitch, and all that sort of stuff as well. So moving it forward then, Seb, how can we sort of link goal setting to sort of mountaineering and to sales? Do you think there's a link there?
Yeah, I absolutely do. I mean, you'll know this yourself, Nick, when you're going out on a hike or a climb, your ultimate goal is to get to the summit. That's not always, in fact, it shouldn't always be the first goal that you're setting yourself, right? And for me, sales, yes, you're trying to close business, but the reality of it is we're not going into that first call trying to close the deal on that first call.
Mm.
Again, it's really trying to understand the stakeholders' needs, their requirements, the challenges that they're facing. And if we look at mountaineering and try and compare the two, again, you're mapping what's in front of you at that time, right? And you're looking at what obstacles you've got to overcome, how you can overcome them. You're not just going gung-ho to try and get to the summit, because again, that's going to end in disaster. If we look at the sales side, that's more often going to end in a closed lost opportunity, right? So again, trying to tie the two together, it's about setting small goals. So that first call, generally, when we pick something up, might be a discovery call. The point of that discovery call is really trying to understand that person's world, what they're experiencing, their challenges, what they're trying to overcome. And then if we flip that on to like a hike or a climb, that first part is really about, okay, what is out in front of me? What obstacle do I need to overcome? What can I see in front of me that may pose a problem in the future? And that's really comes back to the sales piece. What can I see in front of me that may cause a problem in the future?
Really, really good points. And yeah, again, just to further agree with you and echo, what I was sort of thinking is when so when I'm in the Lake District with it's like a hobby that me and my dad do, just to kind of stay in touch. And the ultimate goal is to reach the top of the mountain. But the other goals along the way is to catch up with my dad and see what we've got going on. So we've got that. So that's a sub goal in a day. The goal is to, we all work sort of most of us work 9 to 5 all week long. Let's get out. Let's just get a bit of exercise. Thirdly, let's reduce some burnout. Like there's all these different psychological factors as to what kind of goes on along the way. So like that's obviously the different goal setting along the way. And yes, naturally it's like let's get up the mountain and let's get back.
Yeah.
But when you sort of strip it away, that end goal actually becomes a little bit sort of like, just a sort of nice to have at the end of the day, and because like the other ones become a little bit more important. So yeah, we've got them goals. But I also just wanted to pick up on a really good point that you mentioned there about so linking it back to the sales side and like the discovery call. So that first call is all about sort of like qualifying it. Is it the right opportunity for you? And that links very nicely into sort of risk management, because you might initially start out on a hike or a sales life cycle. You start doing this discovery call and you just think, hang on a minute, this doesn't look like a good opportunity for us. This looks like there's too many obstacles. They're going to be out of our budget, whatever it might be. Similarly, to draw the tenuous link to mountaineering, you might have just gone off your path a little bit, and just because it's very easy to do that, you might have just lost your way, and you just need to stop a second and be like, "Oh, okay, that's actually not right. I know that it looks like we need to go up there, but we actually can't just go up there because you're going to go down a massive canyon. So we've got to go around, just kind of like make it. It might be a bit longer, but it's also safer." What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, I mean, no sale is straightforward.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's actually quite a strong link. You used the word tenuous. I don't think it is a tenuous link. No sale is straightforward. And again, coming back to the preparedness and the preparation, you can do all the preparation and ask all the right questions and do all the right things, but it's never straightforward. So that route to the top that we see when we're setting out on a hike or a climb, it's never straightforward. It's never straight to the top, right? So it's just really trying to understand that, well, actually knowing that there's going to be hurdles to overcome, there's going to be crevasses, that we need to cross or whatever it may be, and it's trying to see those ahead of time.
Yep.
And figure out how we can head them off. And that's often a challenge. It is, because we can do all the preparation in the world, but a lot of the time it's the things that we don't see coming or that we've not thought of that derail us, right?
Absolutely, and that brings in what we're kind of mentioning about the psychology, sort of as sales and mountaineering as well, in the sense of like it's our role to kind of be bringing these soft skills and adaptability, resistance, because like you say, when we hit a roadblock, whatever it might be in a hike or in a sales life cycle, we have to be the ones to navigate said roadblock and be like, okay, what do we do here? And you've kind of got to do an in-time risk management sort of appraisal. Be like, okay, how can we do that? And you've got to weigh up everything whilst in motion. So talk to me more about that, and let's throw in the example of like false peaks, for example. Or
Yeah.
what's your thoughts on these soft skills that we need to have in our world?
Yeah, so the false peaks is a really good analogy. I mean, I'm sure you've been in a situation where you've been involved in a sale or a conversation, and the stakeholder has been really, really keen to push things forward.
Yeah.
And look, we've all been there, and I don't think I've met an honest salesperson who's said that they've never been in this situation before, that they become very blinkered
Yeah.
and miss out really important steps of the sales process and the sales cycle.
Yeah.
And we get to a point where we think, okay, the deal's going to close,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden someone else comes into the conversation and slows the sale down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the sale is never straightforward, right? And having that resilience to overcome barriers and objections. And again, if we link it back to mountaineering, we may be halfway up a mountain and come across something that we hadn't planned for, hadn't seen on the map. If we link that to sales, we haven't seen that on our roadmap, on our process, and not the stakeholders got involved. And it's that resilience of one foot in front of another, almost baby steps, figuring out how do we overcome this? What is the true objection here? Because the surface objection may not be actually the root cause of why this person's got involved. Why is this person derailing the sale? And it can be really frustrating. But ultimately it's about peeling those layers back and saying, well, have we done everything that we should have done to get us to this point? And more often than not, the answer is probably no, if we've come up against that objection further down the line. And the same could be said about mountaineering as well, right? You can take the easy route and the fastest route, but more often than not, you're gonna meet some difficulties along the way, right?
Of course you are. Of course you are. Sometimes, again, me and my dad sort of, when we go on these sort of, we'll just do like a small walk today. We'll just knock off 4 weigh-in rides. On average, they tend to be about 6, and then the big days tend to be 8 to 10 weigh-in rides. And just for the benefit of the audience, weigh-in rides are just there's 214 mountains in the lakes, and i.e., if you've done a mountain, it's a weigh-in ride. And some days when we're just not feeling it, but we need to put the miles in, we're like, let's just go and do a 4. And a lot of time mentally we switch off and we're like, I should 4. We'll just dawdle up and down it. And a lot of times it's those days that actually sort of catch us out, whereas the other days where we're like, right, we've got a big 8 to 10, we're there all day, 3-course meal in the back part, we're ready, and we would just trot along, and we're just like, because mentally we were there, we were switched on. And it's really important to obviously go into a sales life cycle and be like, look, this might look easy, but it's not. Something could happen. Like you say, people, we're dealing with people at the end of the day, and things change all the time. Like we're not computers. It's not binary. It's not black and white. Situations change daily, especially in our world, which is early stage cybersecurity. So it's obviously really important to be adaptable as well, which is another soft skill.
Well, it is. And if you think now, there's, what is it, on average it's 12 stakeholders involved in in sale, right? And if I go back to my intro of the days of telesales, you're dealing with 1 or 2 people, right? Nowadays you're dealing with 12 different people on average, and each one of those people have a different set of interests, a different set of goals, and again, it's there is an art to sales, and just as much as there is an art to climbing and using a belay and all that kind of stuff, and there is a real art to sales, and it's trying to navigate the sales cycle as best you can. But you're always going to come up against a gotcha, or a last minute objection.
Yeah.
And it's the same with mountaineering. Go back to the false peak. You think you're there, you've done everything that you think you could have done, and all of a sudden you get a stakeholder that comes in out of left field, or a crag that you weren't expecting, or whatever it may be. And it's really about taking a step back and understanding, right, how can we overcome this safely to get to our end goal.
I love it. And well, kind of just to kind of flip that a little bit, just to play devil's advocate then, in terms of what you were saying about the about like the more stakeholders involved now, which can be a bit of a detriment, but also in this modern age, especially your roles of, say, sales manager, sales director, is that teamwork. And now that you're in management positions, how do you sort of balance having different people in your teams, like getting involved with projects? Because you've obviously got SDRs, you've got account execs, you've got customer success, you've got channel, all this going on, and that can obviously all get involved in a sales life cycle. So it's good, but also bad because of the amount of engagement. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, again, if we come back to the human element to it, like, everyone's got different strengths and weaknesses, same as I have, right? And really it's about trying to understand exactly that, people's strengths, people's weaknesses. What do they like to do? What do they not like to do? Where do they excel? And at what part during a sales process do we think that they excel most at, and their strengths lie? And again, it's the same with any team environment. As we've talked before, Nick, I've just recently started coaching my kids' football team, and already you're starting to see strengths, areas of strengths, areas of weakness. And for me, it's about playing on those strengths and honing those strengths and hiding the weaknesses, right? And people may disagree with me, and there is this whole thing. I'm kind of going off on a tangent now, but there is this thing within the FA of all kids should be playing in every single position. Well, for me, I'm like, well, I can already see after having 10 weeks with these kids that they're starting to naturally find positions. And it's the same in the sales world for me. It's like, well, surely if I should utilize somebody's skill set where they're most productive, where they're strongest, and then hide the weaknesses. So for me, it's really about trying to uncover the strengths. Yes, we work on the weaknesses, but it's uncovering the strengths and where they can play a part in the sales process. And we've got some fantastic people at Think Cyber, all on different stages of their careers and on different journeys, but it's about understanding where they can add most value.
That's exactly it. It's exactly the same in sort of where I work as well. Some people are absolute experts at filling the roles, whereas other people are more suited to the sales side and more focused to bringing in the clients as well. Because obviously, like with recruitment, it's a little less linear than the outside world, because like the outside world is clear functions, whereas in recruitment it's just that, it's kind of like 360. You do sales and then you do filling the roles, and that's the 360. But sometimes it's a little bit biased. Some people are better at the sales, some people are better at filling the roles. So that's where it's sort of like even more important in my world to actually be aware of that. And like you say, well, actually, like you've done with your boys team, he's like, well, I can see from my experience that even though he's playing at left wing, like he's only young, like he's bloody good at tackling and that, so maybe he's more suited to being in defence. I don't know, like you say, it comes down to that awareness as a manager.
It does. But also personalities is a big thing as well, right? And if you're looking at a mountain leader, right, they may not necessarily have the soft skills that actually a mountain leader really needs. And it's the same in football. You might have a player who's large as life off the pitch, but then on the pitch they're quiet and they're in themselves. So would you potentially look to that person as the leader of that pack, as the captain? And the same in the sales world, right? It's about understanding different personalities. Some people want the kudos and they want to be called out. Other people are quite happy to do their job and do it as effectively as they can, and that's where they get the satisfaction.
Absolutely, and I couldn't agree more in the sense of like personalities, but also a little bit of you've got to be careful with that because basically skilled salespeople or skilled sports people don't necessarily make the best leaders, and therefore, like you say, like Cristiano Ronaldo, he might go on to prove me wrong. Phenomenal footballer, but does he have the characteristics to be a great manager? Me, from the outside looking in, don't know, because I think he'll just get annoyed with the fact that people can't do what he does.
Right.
Put that in a sales life cycle. You get your biggest billers, but sometimes they're actually they can in recruitment. I don't know if it's the same for your world, Seb, but sometimes they can actually have sloppy standards because they've built their business now where it's a little bit more inbound as opposed to pure outbound, and as such they've got relaxed and gone more into tendencies where it's like, oh, they don't need to work as hard because it's got a little bit of a machine going. And that doesn't necessarily set the best precedence to the younger ones on the team or the ones more down the hierarchy. I don't know if that's the same for your world or not.
No, do you know what? I agree. I mean, becoming a leader, you have to be really, really self-aware of your own personality traits. And, I've been told recently, not for the first time, that I'm pretty direct, and I absolutely am. But not everyone's going to respond well to that. So it's about adapting yourself as well, right? And adapting yourself to the surroundings that you're in and the people that you're in front of as well. And I think the point you make about the top billers and top players and stuff not always being the best managers and leaders. Actually, in my experience, that is the majority of the time the case. And if we use Ronaldo as the example, he is laser focused on himself. And generally speaking, a top biller is laser focused on themselves. Now, if I look at my career, I've always been successful in organizations. Have I been the absolute top biller at every organization I've been at? No. But then I've been super aware of my surroundings and trying to help others along the way. So I think there's something to be said for that as well. And leadership is it's difficult because there's so many moving parts, different personalities and things like that. And being self-aware, I think, is really important. And again, if we're linking this back to mountaineering, actually being self-aware in the moment, in what you're doing at that moment in time, is critical to your success. And I think the same can be said for sales and sales leadership in general.
Yeah, fantastic point. And with that, probably segues nicely to my last question, Seb. And I always sort of like to round up the pods. If you go back to when you were first starting out 14 years ago, just tap yourself on the shoulder and just give yourself a pearl of wisdom. What sort of advice would you give to a younger self, Seb?
That's a good question. I don't think it would be advice. It would be, it'll all be all right in the end. It'll turn out okay.
Yeah. Okay. So don't take it too seriously. Don't take the rejections too hard, but don't take the wins too high. Is it sort of keep balanced? Yeah.
Yeah. So we have at Think Cyber, we have a weekly go-to-market call. And with that call, we talk about a number of things. We look at data, pipeline, and we talk about wins. And I recently announced a win on this go-to-market call, and one of the senior, the SLT, I made the joke of it. I said, well, I might not seem happy, but I am.
Yeah.
And I said to him on a separate call, I said, I don't get too high, I don't get too low anymore.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm a big believer of, like, I never really focus on the money. The money will take care of itself as long as we're doing everything right.
Yeah.
So yeah, don't get too high, don't get too low. And just enjoy the ride. Don't take it too seriously. I've been in situations before where, and I don't mind sharing this. I've shared it in interviews before. I got nowhere near target for a full quarter. I was pretty much on my ass. My second child, my boy, had just come along. I was having no sleep, commuting into London, 2 hours in, 2 hours back. And it was a horrific 4 months of my career. And, I questioned everything I was doing. And I came out the end of that, out the other side of it, and, had a good Q1, good Q2. And I thought to myself, I'll never, ever, ever allow myself to get that down, stressed, agitated about it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot in there.
How did you come out that other side, Seb, after that tough quarter?
Yeah, so we had Christmas break, so that really helps. The first time since we've had mobiles and email on mobile, I deleted everything off my phone.
Yeah.
Didn't even think about it. Had a lovely Christmas, completely decompressed. Went back in January with a fresh mindset of what will be, right? I back myself, and if what I'm doing is not enough, so be it. And it lifted the pressure.
Nice. So technically, you didn't actually change your skill set or anything like that. It was just right, come in refreshed and just be like a little bit more disciplined. Like that. It's gonna work. Consistency is key. Just keep doing what you're doing, and in the end, it will be all right, as you said.
Yeah, it was mindset, Nick. It was mindset of not like getting sucked into that, negative, like, consequence of, well, what if I don't hit target? And so the others, like, and now, as I said, I'm like, money takes care of itself, right? If I do my job, money will take care of itself. And it's the same if we link it back to mountaineering. The summit will take care of itself if we do everything right.
Perfect. An amazing way to bring it to a conclusion as well, Seb. So brilliant. Thank you very much for coming on, mate. So if anybody has any questions for Seb or wants to learn more about Think Cyber, I'll be sure to put all the information down below. But once again, Seb, thank you very much for coming on.
My pleasure. Thanks, Nick.